Hey, what's going on, guys? It's another episode of Light Sports Breakdown with LSB and my man JJ the DJ back at it again for more playoff action. We're in the semifinals with the East. We still have some game sevens in the West, so we'll talk about the West another time. But JJ, what do we got for the East?
Man, four great teams left. We started at eight when the Eastern Conference side of the bracket started, and we saw a lot of sweeps in the first round. I was kind of surprised that Boston and Toronto handled their first round series as much as they did, and Miami and the Pacers, that was a shocking result. But hopefully things are a little bit more competitive in the second round. Man.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that in the semifinals we have some teams that won't get swept. I think that's pretty much guaranteed because of the stature of these teams. Obviously, let's break down the first matchup. So we have the reigning champion Toronto Raptors versus the Boston Celtics. And it's kind of funny, JJ, like all the teams that are currently left were all predicted as like the top four teams that would make it far into the playoffs. So not a lot has changed. But so Toronto versus Boston, obviously we went into depth on both teams in the first round, so I'll try to make this a little short because it's the teams haven't changed. It's still the same
Right?
teams, it's just a different opponent. So obviously we know with Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Inez Cantor, Marcus Smart, these guys have a very good team. Boston has a very good chance to make it all the way. But unfortunately, in their first round matchup against the Sixers, they lost Gordon Hayward. So that definitely hurt their team a little bit. But they still have enough firepower that they can get out of the East, JJ. But I mean, they're facing the reigning champs. The only difference is they don't have Kawhi Leonard anymore, but they pretty much have the same core and they have that championship experience that definitely will separate them from the other teams. And I kind of feel like that has like a big edge over Boston because Boston hasn't been to the finals since what, 2008, 2009? It's been a while since they've been to the finals. The last time they were close was in 2013 when they faced the Heat and it was like game 7, but they had LeBron beat them. So they haven't been to the finals in a while, so they have a really good chance this year because they got Kemba Walker despite losing Kyrie Irving in the offseason to signing with the Nets. So this team, Jason Tatum has emerged as a star, and I like this matchup a lot, JJ. Like it's really, really hard to pick who will come out of this series, but I had to predict it, and my prediction is I think Toronto will win this series because they have that championship experience, and they pretty much have the same team. I think they'll win it in 6 games, 4-2. Despite them losing first game, Boston definitely came out firing, and they're off to a good start, but I don't think Toronto will falter that quickly. And they thrive being underwhelmed or underestimated by like analysts or just us predicting them. So why would I have any doubts on them now? Like, yeah, back in the day, in like the early 2010s, they struggled to make it out of the first and second round. But ever since they won the championship, my opinion of the Raptors has changed, and they finished second in the East without Kawhi Leonard. So you gotta have respect for the Raptors, man. So I predict them 4-2. JJ, what about you?
You know, I gotta admit, they usually say the worst thing that you could do as like a reporter is to get too swept up by one game. But I looked at game one very closely, and the the result was a little bit more lopsided than I expected. Now, granted, Toronto, they had been off a lot of time. Boston had too with the sweep, since both teams swept. But when I look at, the Celtics and, how they have just been so easily able to plug in Marcus Smart at the guard position, that, like with Gordon Hayward being out, I just think that the Celtics, man, they can really match up defensively, up from 1 through 5. You know, Daniel Tice, even though he's by all traditional standards an undersized big, an
Right.
undersized five, whatever you want to call it, he does give them, toughness on the defensive end. And I just don't see Marc Gasol, being able to attack him. Like, you can't make that a weakness. So I also have a 4-2 prediction, but I have Boston getting it done. I just think that Toronto's only loss in the bubble during the seeding games was a 122 to 100 loss to Boston. They were 7-1. Boston was their only loss. I just think that that mind game aspect is in Boston's favor, and I think as long as those three guys that you mentioned at the top, Kemba, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum, I think as long as they play good, if Toronto has cold nights against this team, I think Boston will get it done.
Yeah, very good point. And I was leaning that way too, but there's just something about Toronto, man. Like they you underestimate them and they make you pay. And I don't know. I just have a gut feeling that I think they'll make it out of this. But like I said, Boston is a very good team. I think this is like the closest they could be to a championship, honestly. I mean, they've struggled in the previous seasons, but obviously Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, they were just getting established into the league, and now they're getting the hang of it, and they're blooming into stars in this league. And Kemba Walker has just made a career of making big shots. Obviously, he was on the Charlotte Hornets and he struggled to make it out of the playoffs. It was like first round exits for him. So it's very I'm happy that he's in the semifinals and he has a chance to make it to the conference finals before the finals. So, I agree. I think they have a good chance, but I just can't see them getting past Toronto, and it's going to be interesting. I think regardless, I'll be satisfied with the result because
Oh yeah, that's for
they,
sure.
yeah, Toronto won last year, so it'd be cool if Boston makes it to the conference finals and has a chance to finally make it back there after, like I said, like a 10-year layoff of making it to the finals. So it'd be good for those Boston fans to get excited if they make it to the finals. But I mean, you never know. Toronto could ultimately make it back there